Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official console creatures podcast. I'm your host today, Steve, and alongside me, the one and only, the host of PlayStation Generation, Matt. It's so good to have you on the show. It's great when we combine, when we cross streams, when we do the epic crossover that everyone's waiting for. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm ready to talk some Yōtei. Hanging out with you is always an
Yeah.
absolute delight. Yeah, again, the cross there's no one else I'd rather cross streams with on a regular basis, Steve, other than you, you know?
No, it's true, and I feel like the audience also really appreciates that as well. It doesn't happen all too often, but when it does, it feels really special.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
you doing?
I'm doing really well. I mean, it's busy. It's fresh off the weekend of the iPhone 17
Mhm.
coming out, so I've been
Mhm.
playing around with this little thing. Gotta say, I'm liking it so far. I'm liking it so far.
Okay.
This is coming from someone who just months ago I was like the Galaxy Z Fold 7, best phone I've ever used in my life.
Mhm.
This is a good contender for like a really great smartphone. I'm having a blast with it. The camera's really impressive, but who
Okay.
gives a shit? No one's here for that. That's true. People are here for Ghost of Yōtei, which, yeah, this is
Yōtei.
our review of it. It's a big moment. Feels like every time that there's a big review for PlayStation 5, it feels like I said a special moment, especially when you and I get to collaborate on it as well. A bit of housekeeping that I want to point all of our audiences over to. Bobby and I this week published a about a half an hour interview with Joanna Wang, art director of Sucker Punch, worked on Ghost of Yōtei. So that's up on the podcast feeds as well. Go check that out. We have, a stacked week of Ghost of Yōtei content for all of you. But well, this is it. This Bobby will be joining us for some of his comments and everything, thoughts on Ghost of Yōtei as well. But we're driving the ship. We're exploring the plains of Izo. Where we're doing the damn thing, Matt. So
Mhm.
I want to toss it over to you, just broad level, like how much have you played? Have you rolled credits and
Mhm.
some
Mhm.
top level thoughts on Ghost of Yōtei?
Yeah, so I am about like I think like the PS5 game clock has me at somewhere around 25 hours, 24, 25 hours, and I'm out about
Yeah.
70% of the way through. So I pretty much started focusing on mainlining it because I was getting too caught up in all of the other things. Because I want to see the story
I know
through
this well.
before I finish the because I'm doing the Console Creatures written review and I'll have a video up for that as well. So stay tuned. But man, if this keeps up the way that it has been, and I have no reason to believe that it won't, I like this. I love this more than Tsushima, which honestly, coming into this, I wasn't expecting to say. I was expecting here is more
Mhm.
Ghost, and what I got is that, but also ways that they play with the formula. A in my opinion, much stronger narrative, a much darker game comparatively. Also, one of the most visually stunning games I've ever played. Like I have been putting the photo mode to work in this game in a way that I haven't since like Spider-Man 2. It's just brilliant. I do have some issues, which kind of fall more on the technical side. I've had some some
Okay.
some minor things along the way. Nothing that's taken me out of the experience. Nothing that's really broken the game in any way, shape, or form. But I have had some performance stuff along the way. But we can get into that. But I love this game, Steve, so much. And I coming into it, I was kind of like, man, nothing is going to top Expedition 33 as my game of the year. Similarly, like when you were being like, yo, the Fold, best phone I ever used. This is inching
Yeah.
up to I don't know if it'll top it, but it may come pretty close to matching it. I really love what Soccer Punch did here. How about you? How are you feeling? How deep are you? Did you finish it yet? Where are you at?
So game clockwise, I'm probably about 35 hours or so.
Mhm.
Like you, I went in intending I'm going to do the full spread of things. I'm going to go and start doing some of the bounties. I'm going to be doing some of the paintings. I'm going to be
Mhm.
looking out for all the little wolf dens and everything like that. And then eventually I got caught up and like, oh shit, we're recording this in a few days. I got to start really going hammering in on the main narrative. So I started doing that, kind of focusing on that, and we'll get kind of like into the broad strokes of the story, but let's just say like out of the Yōtei 6,
Mhm.
I have, approached and kind of gone through, the bulk of them at this point.
Okay.
But by the time this publishes and everything like that, I will have probably roll credits. I don't see why I
Same.
wouldn't, with a small chunk taken out of all the other stuff. And coming out of it, I'm kind of echoing a lot of what you said. I think the thing about the Ghost franchise is Ghost of Tsushima, love it to death.
Mhm.
I think it was a great game from Sucker Punch. I think it was a great experience, a great like cinematic video game and experience in that way. But I never wanted to replay it. I never felt compelled in Jin all that much. I never felt compelled by the story all that much. I felt like it was, you know, it was interesting to go through and everything, but I never felt myself like reminiscing or reflecting on it all that much aside from the visual, the how it looked, how it played, and everything like that. So I wasn't too excited coming into Ghost of Yotei. I was like, I probably know what this game's going to be. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better, and probably and hopefully compel me a little more. And I think that it checked off all of those boxes. Like you said,
Mhm.
I think Atsu, the main character, so much more personality. Like actually, I give a shit about her journey. I give a shit about her personality, her relationship that she's forming, and everything like that. The world is just beautiful. I think. I mean, Death Stranding 2, that those first like 5 minutes of the game are like
Mhm.
one of the most like impressive technical things. And then I played Ghost of Yotei. I was like, oh, they just outclassed Kojima Productions. I mean, like it's taking that first 5 minutes of Death Stranding and like making an entire game of it. There's so many like great color contrast and the use of the PlayStation 5, even like on an OLED display. This is a crazy great looking game. I think some of my hangups do come down to the gameplay.
Mhm.
I don't think that it does enough to really enhance the experience. There's definitely some great, improvements being made to, like, jazz it up and make it feel a little more fluid and frenetic and, take some of the criticisms that even I had for Tsushima and kind of improve on it. I
Mhm.
just don't think that there's just something about it that I'm still like, I wish I could do more with it. I wish that there was just like another layer to it that, and we'll kind of talk about it, I'm sure.
Mhm.
And then
That's
finally, like my last like little hang up that I have is just kind of the pacing of the main story.
Mhm.
And I don't know if this is something that you'll resonate with or anything, but yeah, I just feel like there's highs and then lows, but the lows kind of stay a little longer than I want them to.
Okay,
But
interesting.
otherwise, I think it's a great experience. I like top to bottom, I think this is a very technically impressive game, and I mean, work if you're already a fan of Ghost of Tsushima coming into Ghost of Yotei, you're gonna have an absolute blast.
Mhm.
I just don't know if Yotei will sell you on the experience if you didn't like Ghost of Yotei, if that makes sense.
I do agree with that. I do think that there are things here like when I was kind of thinking about my feelings kind of coming into this, I do feel Yote is much more inspired by Breath of the Wild than perhaps while Tsushima was felt much more inspired
Mm,
by the Assassin's Creed likes just because I feel like
sure.
everything going on in Yote all of the side content, in my opinion, and of the kind of world at large, it does a really good thing, which Breath of the Wild did, of putting something in your sight line and making you want to go check it out. And when you get there, it's something
Yes.
worthwhile. All the side content is much more interconnected to Atsu as a character and her character progression
Mhm.
and like upgrading her and doing all those things. So I do feel like even like, the throwable weapons, there's a lot here that I do feel like um could sell somebody on the experience that maybe didn't resonate with Tsushima. But I feel like the kind of major kind of criticism that I always had leveled at Tsushima was the combat. And if
Mhm.
that didn't resonate with you, while I do think the combat here is better, I don't think it would sell somebody who didn't like the combat in the first one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I think that's exactly my main point of criticism when it comes to the Ghost of Yotei is that I think what they did with the kind of like the stances in Tsushima kind of worked in a way, but it didn't feel as open-ended for a game that was supposed to be this like light RPG. Like you do have a skill tree, you're putting skill points into how you want to play and everything. And I just felt like the stances didn't really mesh all that well. In this game, they completely re-engineer that whole like stance system in that Atsu has more weapons to use, and that kind of swaps out the stances. So you're still using this whole like rock, paper, scissor
Mhm.
system where
Yep.
it's like, okay, so you have an enemy with a shield, so you have to use the little little axe with the chain to break the shield, and then you swap over to your katana because they'll bring out a katana.
Mhm.
Or if you have the larger enemies, you bring out like your giant sword and stuff like that.
Mhm.
My issue it may I would love to hear your thoughts on this is like I wish that there was a way to not only have that level of rock paper scissors but allow me to use whatever weapon I wanted, because at the end of the day, they still very much emphasize like, no, Atsu uses the katana. She's very, pronounced with the katana, and then
Mhm.
everything is kind of secondary. So even if you have like the dual katanas and the enemy, and that like rock paper scissor isn't uh like meshing well with the dual katana, you're not doing as much damage,
Mhm.
and you're gonna just end like they'll just parry you, they'll block you, and then you have to switch over to your katana. So I
Yep.
just wish that there was like a little more of like, because I love the dual blades. I'm
Same.
like, I wish I could just mainline this because it's fast, it's fun, like the animations are so cool. But I always have to default to the single blade.
I do agree. I do think that the stance system has pretty much just been hot swapped with these different weapons. And I do
Mhm.
feel that Tsushima, these stances, while they were important, like you're kind of mentioning, I do feel you could kind of brute force a situation if you wanted to kind of stay in a stance. I did think that was more viable here in Tsushima than in Yōtei, where if you're like you mentioned, if you're not using the right weapon, and sometimes you just don't have that weapon yet, um, you are going to have him your like combat will feel slower just because like you mentioned, like you need that kind of counter weapon to be able to effectively damage enemies quickly, because otherwise like you said,
Mhm.
you're going to get parried constantly, you're going to get moved around. Like the combat is tough, it can be tough, like
Yeah.
there's some really incredible segments, but at the same time there's some segments that where you're kind of like, especially against grunts where you're almost like beating your head against the wall if you don't have the right weapon. And even just like trying to remember what to use in some situations, that muscle memory takes a bit to kick in. Um, but I do agree that I do wish that you kind of let me use whatever I want to. Atsu, the main weapon is the katana. There's like lore and historical reasons in game for why that makes sense. Everything tracks, especially
Of
because
course.
she's getting these new weapons, and of course she's not going to be as proficient with them. But so
Mhm.
within the world of the game, it makes sense. But as a player, yeah, I mean, dual katanas just look sick, like, or the giant
Exactly. Yeah.
odama just looks badass to use. I like swinging that thing around, but if you're not using it against the right enemy, like, you're gonna get clapped.
Exactly, and I think it all does come back to that baseline, difficulty. Like, I assume that you're also playing it on medium as
Yeah, I'm
well?
just playing on normal, medium, yeah, whatever that one is.
Yeah, yeah,
Standard.
so same here, and like you're saying, like, the game pushes back against you if you're
Mhm,
using the improper weapon, and I feel like that's great for, difficulty, and like you said, it makes sense within the world. But then adding in the layer of, "Oh, well, I'm going to these shrines, I'm praying at these shrines, unlocking these skill points that I'm attributing to not only Atsu as a character, but
mhm.
to her proficiency with all these different weapons." It's like, I almost wish that there was, like, that extra layer of, like, no, you can have the open-ended weapon where yeah, I'm pulling out the single katana, but then bringing out the dual because I just want to because it looks fucking sick.
Yeah, I do wish that, like, maybe if that was even, like, an upgradable skill, or, if she gets more proficient with
Yeah.
all the weapons, like, I do wish that there was a little more there. But what I will say, and it's just like in Tsushima, the bow remains OP. Like, even in the
Oh,
midst
yeah.
of combat, if somebody's not wearing a helmet, you can just mow through them. And I love,
Yeah.
love, love I think the guns are fine. The guns are whatever, they're cool. I'm not really, like, blown away by their inclusion, they're fine. But the ability to pick up weapons off the floor and just hurl them at people, like, Atsu must be bullseye. You know what I mean? Because when she
Yeah.
grabs that thing and she just, like, you'll see an enemy highlighted in white and you whip that thing, they're done. Most of 9 times out of 10, they are cooked. It's so satisfying to, like, roll through an enemy, grab their weapon off the floor, and just whip it at somebody else and continue to fight. I love that added mechanic because, again, there are new things on top of just the weapons, but, like,
Mhm.
I that's probably my favorite addition just because it never ceases feeling utterly fucking cool to pick up a weapon off the ground, or to what's it called? Or to get, knock a person's weapon away from them and pick it up and then just toss it right in their face. It's so satisfying.
I completely agree. If I can give any compliment to the combat or the additions to the combat, it's that single mechanic where
Mhm.
the like you'll find yourselves in like the perfect choreograph like little dance of you're fighting one enemy, deflecting the next, and then all of a sudden one enemy dies, and then you grab his spear and you throw it across like the arena and just gut someone.
Yeah.
And it's like it's that perfect marriage of like an accidental occurrence versus like something that's so deliberate as like the one to one, dodge, parry, and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that being able to throw a sword or a dagger or a spear, it rocks. It never gets old. Like I said, like 30 hours into this game, every single time I see the little outline of like pick up and I'm able to throw, I'm like, absolutely, let's do it.
Beelining it.
That's
And
my go-to. Yep.
and I will say, like, despite my criticisms with the combat, in terms of like, the ability to use these weapons, when I'm actually in the moment playing the game, I'm not thinking about these things because I really loved Tsushima's combat. I'm one of the people that like genuinely
Okay.
really enjoyed it. So for Yōtei, it's kind of like when I stop playing and I'm like, "Oh, hold on, like, maybe it would be cool if I could use something else." But like in the moment, hot swapping between them, getting those deflections off, getting the rolls, and it's so satisfying to the point where like most of the time in Tsushima, um, I felt like Jin was more of a tank than he was a ninja, and I liked the combat so much that I
Yeah.
literally just like stroll into camps and like go into standoff and just start mowing through everybody because most of the time I'm the stealthy person. I'm the one that doesn't like, most of the time just charging in. But in these games, I vibe with the combat so much that most of the time I'll literally just like walk into an enemy camp and like go throw into standoff because I just find it so satisfying. I feel like with Atsu, I'm using stealth much, much more. I don't know why. I feel like it just kind of vibes with the
Interesting.
character
Okay.
more. But despite that, I'm still, walking into camps and calling off standoffs like, every other time just because I do really like the combat and I do feel like everything Tsushima did right is expanded on here. It's just like I feel like when I take a step back away from it, that's when I'm like, oh, I didn't use my Odama as much. I think it's called an Odama, the massive sword, as much as
I think so.
as much as I did in that area where it was very clearly, this is the Odama area. But I in the moment, I'm not thinking about those things just because I'm having so much fun in the ebb and flow of combat. It really is like a dance.
It is, and like I said, when you get into those, like, choreographed moments, it feels really good, but, yeah, I have a ton of fun in the moment, like you said, like, especially when you incorporate some of the tools, like being able to, like, throw, like, dust at an enemy or
The
like a
kunai.
blinding bomb or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, any of the tools, like, within your tool belt, I think just work and enhance the flow of combat because, yeah, in Tsushima, I did play more as, like, the quote unquote, "the ghost," like, the
Mhm.
stealthy one, like, trying to assassinate like, clear out a camp as much as I could without being noticed. In this one, I feel like maybe it just goes into Atsu as a character and her story and her motivations of this, like, revenge tale. I'm just going in, I'm hitting that standoff button, I'm getting my little wolf buddy in there, and
Yep.
I'm taking names, like, the addition of the wolf too is such a cool mechanic. I love and appreciate it. I remember, like, one of the I think it was the first trailer where it kind of, like, starts with the wolf,
Mhm.
and then it kinda, like, shows Atsu and everything. I never really understood how a wolf would really, like, play into the game and everything, but I really dig how they incorporate it, where they go. It ties
Mhm.
into the narrative beautifully as well. Like, it's a really cool addition to the game.
The wolf is really great. I love how sparingly it's used at first because like it
Yep.
feels like this almost like everything with the Ghost series. It's very interconnected with Japanese folklore, with nature, with everything around it. It's just very animals are you can't shoot deer and stuff. Like it's very much like they want the animals to be part of the ecosystem here, so that wolf almost feels like this like mythical figure, this protector that shows up whenever it kind of
Yes.
wills it so, or if you stumble upon one of their dens. And then as you kind of proceed through the game, you're able to summon them and stuff. But that kind of synergy between Atsu and the wolf, calling them in on a standoff, having them alongside you in battle, them saving you if you're about to die. Like there's so much that gets interwoven, but it never feels like a crutch. It never feels like this is like, your get out of jail button. Because again, you still need to be on your shit to be able to get through some of these encounters. But that wolf, it just fits so well, and just kind of, again, just amplifies this whole ghost messaging of this like balance with nature. Just kind of, we see it in the birds, we see it in the foxes. It's just all over the place across these games, and it's just another layer that really works here.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to touch on the story just a little bit, but
Mhm.
before that, I just wanted to know: did you play Assassin's Creed Shadows?
I played like 10 hours of it, and
Okay,
like I
not
just
vibing with it.
no, it just wasn't clicking. Like, I think, again, I was looking for Ghost. Like, when I got
Yeah.
Tsushima, that was always like, this is what I wanted Assassin's Creed to feel like. And then when Shadows hit, I went into it with an open mind, and again, like, but it just didn't resonate with me. And I think part of it is just like, it is still a Ubisoft game. Those markers are everywhere. Yōtei is
Mhm.
much more reserved in how much there is to do, and because of that, all of it feels important in my mind. While Shadows
Yeah.
was still a Ubisoft game at heart, and some people resonate with that more than others. It just didn't click for me. I didn't like how it felt.
No, and I think that's totally valid. The reason I wanted to ask is because Ghost of Yōtei and Assassin's Creed Shadows shares so much in terms of its story of
Okay.
this revenge tale
Mhm.
of, "Oh, there's this group you have to hunt down. I'm gonna go take down every single member of this group."
True.
And going into Ghost of Yōtei, when Sucker Punch came out and they're like, "This is the synopsis. This is what you're gonna be doing," I was like, "Oh, I this honestly feels like been there, done that already,"
Uh-huh.
and literally just did it 6 months ago with Assassin's Creed Shadows. But within, I would say, first couple hours, I was like, "Oh, this is exactly what I wanted from Assassin's Creed Shadows," where it's a smaller group. They all feel very personal. Like, you understand the motivations, you understand why each of these characters matter to the world, to Atsu, to what they did to her and her family. Like, you understand this and all the layers of how they impact the region and everything. Like, I think that top to bottom, the story is handled in so much more of a delicate way than in Assassin's Creed Shadows.
I agree with you. I feel like Assassin's Creed Shadows, from what I played, it feels more like an action movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's the
Mm.
dazzle, but there wasn't a lot of substance there, at least for me, in the from what I played. While Yotei is like, from the outset, there's some like pretty haunting imagery and things that happen in this game that, like, it gets pretty dark. Like, I don't want to
Yeah.
use like The Last of Us, but like, you know what I mean? That PlayStation first party trauma layer that seems to come with a number of their first party games, like, is really
Yeah.
present here. Like, it feels like, this is the darker chapter 2 of what this series is. From, the story to the characterization to everything that happens. I feel like there's just but it's all handled in a way that's like surprising. There's some stuff where you're gonna call from a mile away. There's some stuff that you're like, genuinely surprised me, and I thought handled with like much more grace and emotional depth than I was kind of coming into a Ghost game prepared to deal with. I agree with you. From what I've played, and I can't imagine that it, like, unless it slips in the final kind of, handful of hours. The story is fantastic, and like you mentioned, I resonate with it much more this time around. Like, I liked Jin, I liked Tsushima's story fine, but it was also like that kind of typical, I'm doing this for honor, that kind of comes with a lot of
Yep.
this territory. While here, Atsu's like, I'm out to fucking avenge my family. All these bastards are dead. You know what I mean? Like, it's, again, very classic revenge story, but within that, they play with it. They have some pretty cool ideas. There's some really like dark shit that goes on. That kind of just embraces the story that they're telling. And like you mentioned, the Yotei 6 feel and, are these kind of larger than life things, but you also get to see like the people behind the masks.
Yes. Yeah, no, and it's very cool how much time you get to spend kind of like learning about all these characters, why or how they impacted Atsu's life and why she is out to kill every single one of them, like, for good reason. You get
Mhm.
to empathize a lot more with her than I felt like you did ever with Jen. Like you said, I think it was a much more traditional story in Ghost of Yotei, taking a safe bet in terms of, like, this is how we're pulling from our inspiration of
In
Kurosawa
Tsushima, do you
films
mean? Sorry.
and
Do you mean Tsushima?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
In the first game of like, yeah, that's it felt like a very more reserved reflection on this inspiration. Here, I mean, we're still getting a revenge tale, and
Mhm,
like I said, it did taste a little bit like what we got from Assassin's Creed Shadows, but I feel like how they used all the ingredients and everything just made for a better experience in my opinion so far. Like I said, haven't rolled credits on, so it could not stick the landing, but from what I've experienced so far, I've been kind of locked in all the way through.
mhm.
My only criticism is that you get to these moments where it's like, okay, here's when the clash is happening. Here's when Atsu's going to get her moment, and every single time the game's like, actually, never mind. We're gonna deflect to another 3 to 4 hours before you get to that moment. I'm like, God damn it! I just like it's right there. Like that confrontation is right there, and then they pull it away, and then they get you to do like another mission or two beforehand. And I'm like, it feels kind of repetitive at this point.
I do agree, and that's kind of my one criticism with the story is that they use that again in pretty much every time. If you do that once or here and
Yeah.
there, that's one thing, but like it's kind of over reliant on this. Oh, here's this member of the Yōtei 6. You're gonna fight. Nope, never mind. See you later.
Yep.
Like, and it happens every time. So I will say that's kind of like my one criticism level that the story is just you go into each area and each area feels narratively structured similar to the last while things are different and there's entirely different circumstances and different things the people are different, the areas are different, the kind of overall structure is relatively the same. You'll go to a new area, you'll meet a weapon master who will teach you how to use a new weapon, you're going to confront
Yep.
the Yōtei 6 member, and then you won't, and then you know what I mean. It's that never changes. But what I want to ask you, Steve, is the game kind of feels almost open-ended in kind of the beginning where you're kind of given like a,
I
a
wanted to ask about this
few
too.
Yotei 6 people that you could seemingly go after. Who did you go after first? Because I'm trying to figure out if it's just the illusion of choice, where obviously like the narrative is set and what you're going to be doing ends up kind of funneling into something, but the beginning kind of makes it seem like you have agency in choosing who you go after to some extent. So who did you go
Mhm.
after first? And we don't have to talk about this any further than just the name of the person because that's kind of right at
Right.
the top. But who did you go after first?
Yeah. So, yeah, you get to this moment where it's like, okay, who are you? You have like three choices. At least that's what, to your point, that's what it makes it seem. I went with the Kitsune,
Okay,
and I went all the way up north. And then the game kind of like, after that, provided me no other choice after that. So it kind of felt like boom, I was on the golden path, and that was the story that was meant to be told. But
okay.
you asked me like earlier when you started playing of like, is this a choice? Is this not? So I was waiting until this conversation to actually confirm or, quantify what that even meant.
So I went after the Oni first, and I did all of that stuff before, and then I did the Kitsune second. So I do think that like at least you have an option
Interesting.
between a couple at first, and then the kind of the narrative kind of takes over from there. But it is cool that it kind of does give you that little bit of freedom at the beginning. And I kind of just naturally fell into the Oni and that plot line just because of where I was, like just on the map. I was just adventuring. I wasn't looking at the mini map. I
Mhm.
wasn't looking at I wasn't trying to do anything. And I kind of just ended up going into that area naturally, which I really enjoyed. But it does seem
Oh,
that means that
interesting.
like there is some level of choice at the beginning as to who you go after first.
Yeah, because to me, yeah, I distinctly remember you asked me that. I was like, I'm not really understanding like where the even the branching path kind of comes in until I was talking to one person. It was like, who do you want to know about? And I
Exactly.
picked the Kitsune.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then yeah, it kind of just like deviated me all the way up top. And now the thing I want to reflect even further on is that I think is the worst one to start with.
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
one is drawn out so much. It has so little to do with Atsu, and I'm no getting into no spoilers or anything, but I do feel like the other options are so much more compelling, and that's why I kinda got stale in terms of the pacing and maybe even some of, like, the setup to this game is going after the Kitsune first, I was like, "I don't really care."
That's
And then getting
so
past that, I was like,
interesting.
"Oh, I really give a shit."
I think the Kitsune is my favorite area thus far. I
Interesting.
loved that entire narrative. Like I really vibed with it. I did like the pacing that I guess I created for myself going after the Oni than the Kitsune in terms of like a narrative follow through a little bit. But I loved the entire arc of the Kitsune. That was probably like that was one of my favorite areas, probably my favorite area thus far.
Oh, interesting. See, I love the area itself and everything, and I think I would have again,
Yeah,
I'm trying not to get
I
into
know.
spoilers or anything. It was just the pacing of it all where I was like, I just want to move on.
Mhm.
I know what this is. I know what we're doing here, yada yada yada. And then I get to the Oni and then past that I was like, "Oh, I'm really vibing with the story. I'm really like I everything's meshing so much better. I just wish I started somewhere different."
So maybe that would be my piece of advice to anybody listening. Go to the
Yeah.
Oni first and then kind of follow after. Because I liked the narrative structure of those kind of linking into each other personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I vibe with that.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes me reflect on so much more now.
Mhm.
It's interesting. Okay.
And
Cool, cool, cool.
I almost wish that like because they use that mechanic of like you hunt down your enemy, you're fighting enemies and you can kind of like interrogate them. That only ever really happens at the beginning, and I kind of wish they kept up with that to some extent later on.
Yeah, no,
You know what I
that's
mean?
totally true. Because at a certain point, you kind of learn
You just know,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Bobby, how are you doing?
What's up,
I'm
Bobby?
doing well, guys. What's going on?
Talking some Yōtei.
We are just talking Yōtei. You
Yeah.
joined at a perfect time, because I think at this point we'll talk about the open world because I want to talk a lot about the open world because from just even the top of it, when you start playing this game, you're like, this is a performance masterpiece on the PlayStation. This
Yep.
game like just looks pitch perfect. Playing it on OLED display, incredible. Just the color contrasting, the way that some of the vibrancy hits, and it took everything that works so well for Ghost of Tsushima, and I think ratcheted it up to an 11. I think this is the most impressive game I have ever played, and that's saying a lot. That's coming out of
Yeah.
this like generation. I think there's been a lot of visually impressive games that have come out this console generation, but Ghost of Yōtei, in my opinion, is it's really something. So Sucker Punch deserves like all the flowers, literally, for this game.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, I'm not fully done yet. I'm just because of what's happening with me. I just got married, so it's like I couldn't take the lead, but Matt's taking it. So yeah, I'm pretty fair. I'm like 3 out of 6 of the Yōtei
Sure.
6. I've wiped out. So like I'm maybe halfway, I'd say. But like so far, it's been like leaps and bounds better than what Ghost of Tsushima was doing, and I'm not a knock against the first game, but like obviously, like it is a step forward in the storytelling. I love how it's open ended and how you kind of get to pick and choose your own adventure, kind of thing. But yeah, the one thing I'm kind of like I don't want to say against, I just don't prefer is like it's so open ended that sometimes I got lost where I want to go, and there's no like traditional quest or a quest line of where you want to go, right? It's more just like there's that card system, whatever they think. I do like it, but it's just if you're indecisive of how you want to proceed, like it's like where do you want to go first? And there's no really like dedicated push forward. It's like you go at your own pace. But yeah, so far it's
Yeah,
been
we can
great.
talk about that open world in just a moment. But no, so Matt, I
Mm,
wanted to well, both of you actually, I wanted to throw to you. Are you both playing it on the Pro?
I'm
Yep.
playing it on the Pro.
Yeah. Okay. Because we had
Yeah.
a write-in from listener Chris Zeiser. He wrote, "How does the game compare to being played on PlayStation 5 versus PlayStation 5 Pro consoles? Was there a better slash preferred experience?" Because I'm just playing it on the regular PlayStation 5, playing it like I said on an OLED. Looks great, runs great. But Matt, you said at the top of the show that there were some performance hiccups, and I'm wondering now that we got Bobby in the mix here too, if this is like a pro situation because I haven't run into a single performance hiccup.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a pro thing. Like the PS5 Pro has like a ray tracing pro mode which targets 60 frames per second and also has the ray tracing. It looks
Yeah.
phenomenal. I haven't had really any frame drops or anything like that. It's more like, I there's a segment where like you jump off of something and like I land and Atsu just kind of froze there for a couple seconds while like I think it was supposed to be
Interesting.
playing some sort of animation of her landing, and then it kind of continued on. I had a couple things where like I don't know if either one of you have noticed this. I feel like the wind is ratcheted up to like 1,000,000% all the time, because like you could be in like a dense forest like having a conversation and like Atsu's like has like on the ends of her sword there's like a little like I don't know like a little string thing and it's just like
Yeah.
it's like it's just
That's for
going
sure.
yeah it's going crazy all the
It's a
time.
little
So
charm. The little
yeah
charm of her sword, and it's just like it's so erratic. There's definitely some kind of like
yeah
collision interference, but
and it happens on her clothes. It happens like the armor that I'm using has a cape. It's constantly like I'm like Superman flying, where it's just like constantly fluttering around. Where I feel like I don't know. It's just like it feels like the wind and like the particle effects almost like there's almost like too many leaves. There's almost like too much wind, where like those
yeah,
environmental effects are almost too high to the
yeah,
point where like
Yo, they want those particles to sing. They like
yeah
every step is like, oh, we're just blowing
yeah
like a big pile of leaves. It
it's
is
just
funny. It
it's
is
just
funny, but like to me, it's just like they want to flex so hard of like we made Tsushima better. We took
yeah.
what worked for Tsushima, but made it so much better and so much more impressive. And we're using every ounce of what the PlayStation 5 can do.
And most of the time it looks fantastic, but when like I'm standing there having a conversation like right by a house and like the wind is about to
yep,
pick me up and lift me off into the sky, like it was a little bit immersion breaking for me because I just laughed. Like again, it was and I couldn't find like I looked into the settings, there's no way to like change any of that. I didn't have like a wind setting accidentally maxed out. There's nothing there that lets you do that.
That's
So
so
like
funny.
no issues with frames, but like and no like pop in or anything like that. It's just like kind of
Okay.
more like outside of the wind, there's more like just a kind of like solitary moments where like I
yeah,
jumped and like got stuck on the environment and kind of just floated there for a couple seconds before it kind of like rubber banded me back out for a second. I beat an enemy and it could kind of rubber like rubber not rubber doll. What's the term? Like the
Ragdoll.
Thank you. Yeah, kind of like ragdolled over a little bit. It doesn't happen enough that it caused any problems, and at no point did it like break the game or anything like that. But it just happened a few times where it just kind of took me out of the experience. But I did have like things like that along the way that just they just happened.
yeah. That's kind of
Yeah.
my experience too. Everything's just I think it's ratcheted up way too high, like the wind, particles. Like it's cool, but I mean it detracts from what conversations you're having. So like you're trying to talk and like everything's coming around you, and it's like it obviously it is pretty realistic because like I've had conversations when the wind's gusting like that, and like it's simulated pretty well, but it's too much for a game I feel, and the close physics definitely need to be finessed a little bit and just tweaked because it's really obstructing when you're talking, and like that charm's just going like this and it's just like flapping everywhere and it's all you're looking at, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like I don't
That's
even
so
care what you're
interesting
saying.
because like I have never in a single like conversation or anything been distracted. Like I've never noticed this.
I don't know if
It's
like for
hard
me,
not to notice it. Once you
yeah,
notice it, it's
it
there, and
does.
it's like the star of the conversation.
Interesting.
Yeah, and like again, like Bobby said, there are moments where it totally makes sense. If you're on like this massive open field and the wind is obviously high, like yeah, or if you're on a mountaintop, but if like I'm in like a building, or if I'm like in the middle of a dense forest, or if
Yeah.
I'm somewhere that like the wind
Well, the forest, to be fair, like there are sections of the forest where like the wind is actually like it's like a slipstream. Like you can go faster through the forest
Yeah.
because of a path, but like I feel like they need to like dial it back for conversations. But like for gameplay, it's cool. But as soon as I'm trying to talk to somebody, it's
Yeah.
like, well, make it a cutscene instead of just like an in-game cutscene or something.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it is. It's that break. And the other thing is there's literally no load time. So like I think if they could like preempt it just to have like a second delay of like the wind, like it would make a big of change in how you're talking to somebody. But I think it's too technically advanced to the point where it's actually taking away from things you're doing.
Yeah, I do think you're right, Bobby. I think like in like moment to moment gameplay, it's not really
Yeah.
something that's noticeable. But like as soon as you stop to have a conversation, and kind of going back to what you were saying, Steve, about like this game is stunningly gorgeous. When I talk
Yeah.
about like the skyboxes and like the like again the leaves, the water, like the geese flying out of the water as you're kind of running, it is like breathtakingly beautiful.
Yep.
My one issue when it comes to anything graphically, as I don't feel like the character models and animations always match up to the environment. I found that there's just been some kind of like stiff looking animations, like when the character is just like standing there and being like, oh yes, let's go talk over there now. And they kind of, wander off. But like
Sure.
when like looking at some like Naughty Dog, like all of that, like even those moments feel just much more fluid. And like again, like there's just I feel like the character models, they look beautiful, don't get me wrong, but like I do think that like Death Stranding like does look better in that aspect when you're looking at comparing like character models, but
It's
environmentally
yeah.
and like vibes and like you mentioned, Steve, like the color contrast and like the
If
reds against the yellows, like it's stunningly gorgeous.
Yeah.
I just feel like the characters don't live up to the same bar that's set by the environment.
there's still a
I think that
cartoon
comes
to
out
me.
way more when you're playing with the photo mode. The moment that I open up the photo mode and I'm like, Atsu has just like taken a swipe at an enemy and I'm gonna get like the perfect action shot, but the enemy is just kind of like motionless and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
their animation is kind of like stiff. I was like, okay, maybe it's not the perfect one, but like if I'm setting up more of like a vibey shot or like
Yeah.
an environmental shot, I'm like, oh, this game, the visuals of this game are
No, they're
pitch,
incredible.
pitch perfect. Like
They're absolutely
I'm prepared
stunning.
to get muted, to get blocked by every person on X and Blue Sky because I'm going to be posting so
Same.
many photos
Yeah.
from this game. Like
Yeah, no, 100%. Like
I love it.
that's the biggest thing is this the photo mode is so expansive to the point where it's like if you want to be a VGP, photographer, you can spend hours literally perfecting the perfect shot, and like it's so in line with the culture.
Yeah.
It's about the perfect,
Oh,
the
yeah.
perfect moment.
Like
and,
like I've
it's
been
all
taking
there.
so many
Same.
like portrait mode photos for my phone and everything. Like
And like
oh man.
I
Oh
really love
man.
that the photo mode, like when you go into the photo mode, the environment actually kind of continues to move. So you really get that like dynamic, perfect shot. Like when you go into the thing, like if there's smoke in there, the smoke will continue to pillow. If there's rain, the rain will continue to fall. It doesn't just frame that moment. It kind of continues to live. It's almost like a live photo where like
Yep.
Atsu's
Yep.
frozen and the environment at large is frozen, but like the elements of it continue to move to like really bring this dynamic look to it. And I think as we've been talking about this, I think my kind of hang up is I feel like everything looks so good. And then the moment that, again, just going back to this, you start having like a conversation with someone, it just feels very like static when you're just like standing there having a conversation. It doesn't really feel as dynamic as the rest of it is. And I think that again, like the actual cutscenes, like, especially like the flashback cutscenes and a lot look stunning and animate beautifully. I think it's just when those moments where like you run up to a character, hold R2 to start a conversation, it just kind of, it doesn't animate as well as it does the rest of the time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean because like yeah, you have Atsu who's perfectly animated and she looks great, like
Yep.
all of her facial animations look incredible, and then you have like the tier 2 characters,
Yes.
like the secondary characters that she interacts with, and they're still pretty good like anytime that she's interacting with them. But when it comes to like the no name Ronins or the merchants that you're talking to, that's when it becomes like this issue of it's just video game 101 where it's like
Yes.
the priority list has
Yeah.
gone all the way to the bottom, and now you're dealing with copy and paste characters that are interchangeable within these like little townships and stuff like that. That's when it becomes very, very stiff and apparent.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I'm with you guys on that. But for the photograph mode, like what I've been doing is finding that shot and then letting it record for like 30 seconds and then clipping that, and basically it'll just be like that. It'll be just the environment's moving and she's motionless, but like it looks so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just adjusting like the filters and like it looks really cool. It looks exactly like you would from like like a Kurosawa movie or something. Like it looks so cool. It looks straight out of a movie. I've been really impressed with like what they've done and how they've amped up even the filters. Like they're so much more intricate and detailed and balanced, because some of them just like the colors were off in the previous game. I felt it just didn't really shine as much as like I'm seeing everything kind of come together in this photo mode. And we're speaking to Joanna last week from Sucker Punch, and she was saying they spent a lot of time on photo mode, a lot of time. They were like, we had to perfect it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want to see what everyone's capable of doing with this mode because we put a lot of time into it. And I'm like, yep. And now I'm using it, and like I can see all the work that's there. It's impressive. Probably one of the best photo modes I've seen.
Agreed.
Have either of you guys played with the different like play modes? Because obviously the Kurosawa mode comes back,
Yeah.
but then they also have 2 new modes.
Yeah.
Have you guys been playing around with either of those at all?
Not yet myself, just the Kurosawa mode. I want to use the other ones, but because it's so hard, I am that guy who likes to just play the original experience as intended. So
Same.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll get to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
There's
yeah,
there's the one, there's the Takashi Miike
yeah,
filter, and it doesn't really change or enhance the game or the visuals all that much. The only thing that it adds is it's kind of like a brutal mode where it adds like more mud, so your clothes will be more muddied after combat, and then more blood when
Mhm.
you're in combat as well. Or Atsu's clothes will be drenched in blood a little more. It doesn't really do all that much, but I coming into Yōtei in like first 5 hours or so, I was like, man, in the back of my head, I felt like Ghost of Tsushima was far more brutal with its like combat or the
yeah.
way like the blood spatter and stuff like that. And I was like, "Oh, I don't really see that all that much in Yōtei." And then I added the Mike mode to it, and I was like, oh shit, here it is. It's been hidden behind this one.
Yeah,
Really,
they moved
I'm
it.
I always felt like Yōtei was much more brutal coming into it. I was like the
Oh,
dismemberment
really?
and
Yeah.
everything, like, but maybe maybe I have to turn the Mickey mode on because like the other one that I want to try is that I forgot the name of it, but like with the lo-fi soundtrack created by
The Watanabe, yeah, the
yeah
Watanabe mod.
yeah.
Why
I
not
feel
be?
like
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like once I finish like the core narrative and start kind of expanding out to the side stuff that I haven't done yet, I'm going to play around with those modes more because, like Bobby said, I kind of want the inherent narrative to be as they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
The Watanabe mode is interesting. I love the lo-fi-ness to it. If I am doing, side quests or just like doing some of the open world, which I want to touch on, but in just a moment, it's good. The only issue I have with it is that it pulls the camera in too much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The camera shifts like closer to the back of Atsu, and I'm like, ooh, I don't really like this. And maybe it's just because I played 20, 30 hours of how the camera, is. It's in a very cinematic position. I think it's placed perfectly well for the character and everything. It just pulls it in a little too much. That I'm like, I don't really vibe with this all too much. Although the audio side of it is it's great if you're looking for like a really cool, like vibey kind of experience.
Hmm.
I do want to turn our attention to the open world because we kind of touched on it earlier, Matt. We were talking about, the breath of the wildness of it all, where you're seeing like, a streamline of smoke coming off in the distance. And you're like, I'm going to go over here. And lo and behold, it's this small little, a little side quest or a little merchant, or you end up on this mountainside and you find a shrine to pray at or a wolf's den. Like there's so much to experience and do, and all of it feels very like quiet and therapeutic, just like Tsushima did. Like all of the side content felt very like, again, I want to go to like the vibiness of it all, of like there's these quiet, therapeutic, almost zen like moments, and I think that they really expanded on them and really made them really compelling in Yōtei.
Yeah.
I agree with you because I feel like all of the side content in Yōtei, in my opinion, feels very purposeful. There's
Yeah.
you like everything just kind of clicks. There aren't 10 currencies you have to worry about that do different things. Like the flowers do cosmetics and the gold does upgrades. There's a handful of resources that you have to
Yep.
worry about. And like, the shrines will upgrade Atsu's, ability points. There's no like experience that she's collecting or anything. You find the shrines and that's how you upgrade. Doing the stuff with the wolves upgrades your relationship with the wolf. Finding the hot springs, right? Like raises your health. Everything feels important because all of it genuinely impacts Atsu's progression in a way where,
Yeah.
like, if you ignore a lot of it, you're genuinely going to have a harder time because your health is going to be less. You might not get better charms. You might not get a better, you might not have a better armor kit. So like even like the bounties and
Those
stuff.
spirits.
Yeah,
Like if you
this
do the bamboo, you get the
bamboo
spirit
chops.
orbs and stuff
Yeah,
for health. Yeah.
everything feels purposeful, and it like when I look at the map, I'm not like, I don't feel like inundated with like 1,000 different markers on the map about things I have to go and just kind of, cross off or check off a box. All of it feels like I want to do everything because all of it feels important. And I felt that way about Tsushima, but I still feel like Tsushima was a little more disjointed with it, where it's like, this is the side stuff, this is the main quest. Yōtei nails the feeling of everything feels important.
I think a lot of it goes back to and you learn about it over the course of the game, but like why all these activities or why all these things go back to Atsu's like childhood and her formative years and everything. Like all of it like resonates with Atsu as a character versus in Tsushima where Jin was just kind of doing these things.
Yeah, he was just more
So
like,
yeah, they're more purposeful.
Jin was definitely just like the guiding marker to everything. He was just like the guy that shows up instead of like Atsu being, ingrained in a lot of these situations. And like I like how it's it does feel natural because you get to play with, the situation when she was a kid, and then you can just jump back and forth between the present, and like you kind of see why certain places are the way they are. Obviously there's some light spoilers, but like there's one part where you're doing the early garden where you're seeing her mother is like building a specific garden, and it's like, oh, this is a really cool location, but here's why, because her mom built it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's light stuff, like another light spoiler, like there's certain shrines that your parents obviously built, and like they're really cool locations. Like you're going to this location, you're like, oh, your parents built this. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Even like with like the weapons, like obviously like the goal is to get this new weapon, but I feel like most of the time like you'd get there, you'd fight the person, you get the weapon, but like and again, slight spoilers, but for the dual katana, like he's training
cool.
you to use your left hand, because your left hand as a sword wielder will obviously be weaker if you've only ever used the katana with two hands. So like they make you do bamboo chops, but they put all of the inputs on your actual left hand, so it's all on the left D-pad, it's all on L1, it's all on L3. So like at first you're like, what the hell, I'm used to only doing this on my right hand. So it's like they do things like that are just so creatively cool, and like in ways that I was just like, oh, like, yeah, that actually makes so much sense, and it brings you as the player closer to the experience, because you're genuinely kind of going through what Atsu's going through as you're kind of learning these new weapons. They do them in really cool ways.
Yeah.
The other cool thing that I love, and this is just like it just itches and tickles like a part of my brain, but every time you go to like the merchant, you get like the map pieces, and it's like, okay, now open up the world map, and you have to find like the little segment where this little map that shows you where a shrine is, or any kind of like side activity collectible is. You have to kind of like pinpoint it and like pin it to the map, and it's just such a satisfying little addition to the overall gameplay and experience. I'm like, every time that there's one available, I'm like, I don't care, spend the money, I want to do this little thing.
Yep, agreed.
I love those. Like I think the map, I guess, I don't know, are we gonna call them stickers? Like kind of just stick on them. Like, I love just unpiecing it, but there's another small detail on the map. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like I was playing it last night and I was putting the stickers on, and I was like, why is there water all over the map? And like I went back to the screen, and it was raining in the screen, and then when I went back to the menu, it was Atsu holding the map, and the rain's hitting the map.
That's crazy. I did not notice that.
No. It was like little drops everywhere, and you could feel it on the controller. So it's like these little things. I was like, oh, I never noticed this the entire time I've been playing.
Yeah.
And then if you're in the snow, there's like I saw like just like flakes flying all over the screen and stuff. It was cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I think the one
they do some really cool things with the DualSense controller as well.
Oh, that's
like, the haptics and everything. Like starting a fire and doing the kindling and like having to, that's so cool.
See, so like I did them once, like the fire and like the sword stuff. I did it once, and then after that I skipped it every time. Those are the ones things that I'm like, they're cool additions.
They're just a little bit more immersive. I do like them because they take literally seconds to do. I do like the cooking. I like that. I actually kind of wish
the cooking's fun.
Cooking's cool.
I just wish there was more of a mini game where it's like, okay, well, you're cooking, but you also got to season it, like a little cooking mama kind of thing, where you got to season it and prep it and then like cook it up. But like it's fine for what it is. I did like it, but like I did like the fires, because the fires were cool.
Yeah. I do wish that like it's almost like you're kind of saying like maybe you can screw up cooking it, so it's like you get like a worse stat boost if you don't cook it properly.
Like a minor versus like a major stat.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wish there was a little bit more of that to it, just because it doesn't really, like, again, it brings you into the experience, but it doesn't really do anything with it, in my opinion. Like they're fine.
No, it's just a way to add a little bit more immersion to it. Like that's fine, but it just a little bit more would have been cool. But you know what, whatever.
But like the DualSense,
Again,
like
I feel like it goes back to like Sucker Punch just wanting to flex. I feel like a lot of these things are just like, no, we can do it, so let's just do it. Let's
yeah,
let's
Their
do
biggest
like a
flex.
little
Yeah.
cooking simulator. Let's add all the wind we can, all the leaves on the ground, and make you do like the little Suni paintings, like
yes,
with the
I like
touchpad and
that.
stuff like
love
that. Like
those.
they love to get into the minutia of we can do this, so let's just do it.
Well, even
Yeah,
like
like
with the
that stuff is
DualSense,
great.
like even like when you're
Um,
riding the horse, like the road feels different than the ground, feels different than the snow. Like you can feel the different like
Yeah.
environments in the DualSense with the haptics. Like it genuinely, I think it's probably some of the best DualSense implementation across the PS5 thus far, just of how
yeah.
Probably
good
since
everything
Astro, to be
feels.
honest.
Yeah, agreed. Of just how good everything feels. The swords kind of, you can feel them clang against each other. The weapons feel different. The you know, again, the environment feels different. The terrain feels different. It's brilliantly done.
It's their most immersive game by far. Like it, I was kind of worried about how they would approach, uh, like this section of Japan versus Tsushima. Like it's pretty different. I feel like it doesn't feel like they just they took what worked there and they moved to the
Mhm.
mainland. It's
Mhm.
vastly different. The biomes are
Yep.
way bigger. They're way more distinct. Everything is, and it's more. There's more color. I feel like there's way more color in the world. There's
Yep.
like just you go onto like a vista and you see like a golden forest over here. You look to the right and there's like the blue hydrangea fields, and like you go a little further down and you can see the cherry blossoms. Like it's cool. Everything is so colorful. I love the like
Yeah.
the just the pop of color. You can look in the distance. Like it's cool. And there's literally no pop in. There is no texture loading. It's
Mhm.
crazy how just instantaneous everything is. From literally opening the game to playing it is maybe 8 seconds.
Mhm.
And like that's cool because then as soon as you boot in, you just get on your horse and you go, and like nothing is stopping you from like taking yourself out of the experience. It's like you're there.
Mhm. Agreed.
Agreed. Yeah.
But no,
I
this is
want to go
definitely their
around the
best
horn
open
on. Sorry.
This is definitely their best open world by a margin. Like I have like no bad notes about it. Everything just feels really thoughtful in how they built the world, how they you know differentiate where you're going to where you're coming from. Like there's a lot of just a lot of thoughtfulness in their process of how they built the world.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to go around the horn and just get some final thoughts, some final opinions. If there was anything that we didn't touch on, Matt. Yeah. How would you kind of conclude your thoughts on Ghost of Yōtei as we round up this conversation?
I didn't expect to love this game more than Tsushima, and I very, very much do. Atsu's a fantastic character. The narrative's great. Everything that they've added to and messed with the game works. Again, small quibbles aside, like, and a couple performance things here and there, but I think, as I mentioned, I didn't expect that this game would kind of contend for my game of the year, going up against Expedition 33, but like it's pretty close. It's genuinely fantastic. It's like this is the Sony first party that I feel like we've only gotten like
We're
tidbits of
missing.
throughout this
We're missing.
generation, and Yōtei is such like
Yeah.
is them being like, we're still here, we know what we're doing. This is a massive flex across technical, across graphics, across story, across gameplay. Like it's incredible. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
the same
Couldn't
way.
say it any better myself. What about you, Bobby?
I feel the same way. It's not going to be my game of the year just because obviously Expedition 33 is out.
Mhm.
It's a pretty close top. It's a top 5 game for me. It is, but there's just and it's not obviously we're gonna say. Let's preface it. It's not a knock against the quality of this game. There's just so many good games
Yep.
that came out this year, and it's like I have to prioritize now. Like what stuck the most with me after I finished it, and like even still, I'm halfway through, but like I feel like I'll get a sense of where I'm going to go. It's top 5 for sure, just for what technically it does, and story wise, it is vastly different from Tsushima. So like that alone, that's all I wanted from it, and they've nailed those aspects. So like for sure, it's a top 5 game. It's definitely something everyone should be playing this year. Don't wait on this one. It is really cool. It's exactly what we need from Sony right now because they've had such a there has been a drought of games from Sony, like that's pretty clear. I feel right. So this is a return to form. This is exactly what we kind of want from Sony, right? So this is a great way to begin October. It's a great game to tide us over till the next game kick comes out in a couple weeks. After that, it's perfect.
It's perfect for you to play on October 2nd before the real game of the year, Digimon, comes out on October 3rd.
Yeah, so there you go.
There you go. Yeah, as for me, I think Ghost of Yōtei is exactly what you want from a marquee PlayStation game. It's a crowning achievement from a technical perspective. It has the cinematic moments that you want from a PlayStation game. It takes everything out of the PlayStation hardware and utilizes it across the board, from the console itself with low loading times to the DualSense. This is like the pitch perfect like PlayStation experience. And I think, yeah, taking everything that worked so much from Ghost of Yōtei into or Tsushima into Yōtei, the characters are better. The story, I think, is much more better. The environments are more beautiful and stunning. My only criticism is that if you haven't been sold on the combat, haven't been sold on that rock paper scissors element and the swapping of weapons and taking in exchange of different stances of the first game, you're not going to like this game. It's not really going to invite you in anymore. It's a little more expansive. It's a little more compelling, but it doesn't fundamentally change whatsoever, and it kind of still binds you to that. You're still a samurai with a one blade. You have some extra pieces in your arsenal, but it's still the same kind of core gameplay from Tsushima. So if that never vibed with you, probably isn't going to vibe with you here. But that being said, I still think that it's worth at least trying, at least giving it a go, because everything else across the board is so well done. And
It's
props to Sucker for everything that they kind of achieved with this. I again, I'm not willing to say whether or not this is going to be like a game of the year contender for me and everything, but I think out of everything, all the boxes that I want checked off for a game of the year, I think this does have it. So I'm interested to see how I land on it when I roll credits, when I get the inevitable platinum, because this is a game that I will be going for the platinum for, and how I feel about it on the other side. But I think this was a great conversation. I think we hit everything that we really wanted to. But if there's anything else, I'm sure, across PlayStation generation and Creature Cast, we will be talking about this game for quite a while. But Matt, I want to throw it over to you. If people want to connect with you online, thanks again for taking time and joining the show today. But where can people keep up with you?
Of course. You can find me here. I'm handling both the written and the dedicated video review for Yōtei, so those will be on across the site and the channel soon. You can find me over on Blue Sky at Matt Silversoul, and of course, come hang out with us on PlayStation Generation each and every week, Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we talk all things PlayStation all the time.
Wonderful. And Bobby, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me at bpashalitas on all socials. Follow us, consolecreatures.com. Pick your social channel. We're there. Like, follow, talk some crap about Dave if you want. That's usually what we're doing. Right? So that's where we're at. He's got some bad takes.
And you can find me across.
Yeah, sorry, Steve. We're gonna Dave.
No, I wasn't gonna give him any more of a spot.
No, we have to, because what he said about Silk Song is actually it flabbergasted me this weekend. So you know what? Rip on Dave, guys. You have my
rip on Dave, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. But for me, you can find me across the internet at Asfigvari. Again, we had a great interview with Joanna Wang from Sucker Punch, so go check that out as well if you want more about Ghost of Yōtei this week. But we appreciate all the love and support for the show and for Console Creatures as a whole. But until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.